I'm Meg Griffin, and we're here today at the Carroll County Public Library, Mount Airy branch, talking to Mr. Harold Mac Molesworth about his memories in Mount Airy. And today's date is Wednesday, May 6th, 2009. Well, thanks for coming, Mr. Molesworth. Just start off with a few biographical questions. Where were you born?
I was born 3 miles east, west of Mount Airy in Barthelow's. It was called a little town on the railroad, one store.
Wow.
For one of the railroad workers was the halfway between Baltimore and Brunswick. And they had the biggest station there that in between the two, the railroad station.
Wow. So.
And I was born there. And
were you born at the house?
Yes.
Oh.
The house has since burned down and been replaced, but my father ran a store there. Just a general store. And we moved to Ridgeville, which is Mount Airy, when I was 4 years old.
Wow.
I can just barely remember the store.
Where in Ridgeville, whereabouts in Mount Airy would it have been now? Where you was the store in Ridgeville, or did you live in Ridgeville?
No, the store was in Barthelow's.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And you lived in Ridgeville.
Yeah.
Well, where was that? Is the house still standing where you moved to?
No, it was. There was a hotel in Ridgeville. And we moved next door to the hotel. It was a duplex home, right on old Route 40.
Oh.
And I was in that neighborhood for all my life.
Wow. And where did you go to school back then? How was
Mount
the
Airy.
school system?
Went 11 years we had.
It was just one school?
Yeah, we had a high school in Mount Airy then.
And is that where the current middle school or elementary school?
Elementary.
Ah.
It burned down, and I can't tell you what year it is, but I was in the 5th grade. And they had school all over. And anyway, they had a room.
Isn't that something? So you just had to travel around.
Mostly I was under the movie house, you know, going up the hill where that is.
On Main Street?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. It's a tile store now.
In the back on the lower level, he had enough room in there for one room. and that's where
you went to school?
They went to school, some in Calvary Church. Some went to school downtown. The post office used to be where the gun shop is now.
Ah.
And there was upstairs, they used that for a room, you know, for school. And the bowling alley was where the beauty shop is now, across from the old bank.
Oh, yeah, Miracles. That was a bowling alley.
Yeah.
Huh.
And they had school in there.
Just each grade at a different place?
A different place.
And for how long was that before they got the school rebuilt?
You know, I thought you'd ask me that, and I don't know. I was in the 5th grade. I didn't.
You didn't care. Oh.
But we moved from Barthelow's. We lived a couple years right in Ridgeville. The house was really where the used car lot was for Jones Motors.
Oh. And that's
lived there. And across the house where the undertaker is now,
oh, okay.
my grandfather moved there from Lisbon when he retired from farming.
Huh. Well, so your whole family is definitely this area.
Right. He quit farming, moved to that house, and the lots on both sides of it were vacant. And over the years, he sold one and the other, which the houses are still there, the beauty shop and the, some man opened a used furniture place, I think, in that other house.
Yeah, they renovated it and
Right.
made it into... Well, how many siblings do you have? Did you, when you grew up, did you have any brothers and sisters?
I had one brother, died when he was 12.
Oh, so you pretty much just had your own...
I guess
your
that's
own
spoiled
history
rotten.
here. Oh.
He had appendicitis and his appendix broke, and the doctor thought he had just had a bad stomachache.
Wow. Isn't that something? That was
My mother, I don't think my mother ever got over it.
Oh, I'm sure not.
It,
And then, so you was Jones Motors the first business that that you owned here, or what was your work history like here in that area?
well, it won't take long to tell that. My first job, when my grandfather moved to Mount Airy, it was before the World War I. And my uncle, when World War I was over, there was a garage right on the corner, the foundation's still there, of, and there's a good picture of that. I got a good picture of that. He went in business in when World War I was over.
Okay, that right in front of what's now Anita's Liquors? That,
Yes.
Oh, okay, I wondered what that was.
You see,
can see it,
their
yeah,
parking lot's
right.
really the foundation of the old garage.
I see.
And he stayed there till 1936. And he bought the old hotel and tore it down and built Jones Motors.
I see.
Well, we were living next door, and of course, as a job, I didn't want to do a little work there. I was always there.
Yeah.
If they go anywhere, they'd take me along, you know. But when I went into service for World War II, I had worked for him. I graduated in 1941.
And it was Mount Airy High School, and
Mount
you
Airy
were back
High
at the
School.
school.
And that's when the war started.
Okay.
And I worked 1 year for him. Big pay, $14 a week. And you worked 10 hours a day.
Wow.
And you never thought anything about it, because everybody did.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
$14 a week.
$14.
So I told him, I said, I've been here a year, don't you think I'm worth more money? He said, well, I'll think about it. He gave me my pay on Saturday. He gave me $15.
There you go. Well, a whole $1.
And I quit.
Oh, did you?
And it was in the spring, last of March, and the biggest snowstorm came that weekend that I've ever seen
Really?
in Mount Airy. You could set a yardstick anywhere and see this much of the top.
Jeez.
And it never drifted a bit. It just snowed.
Wow.
And of course, you didn't have snow plows or anything.
What did they do? Did they have to hand shovel the
Yeah.
snow? Really?
I went back and worked 3 days for him, shoveling snow, and I don't even think he thanked me.
That's family for you.
Yeah, right. Well, I went to work then in a defense shop in Baltimore. We made piston rings for airplanes. And I was always mechanically involved. It didn't take me long to learn what I was doing. There was like 14 men I remember working doing this.
Yeah.
I worked 1.5 years, and I had 25 women working for me. I was a foreman.
Wow.
All the rest of the men in the service. The one at that time.
Jeez.
I stayed there 1.5 years. Right away, got $60 a week. Well, that was 4 times what I was making.
Yeah.
You know? And I liked it very much, but it seemed like I was the only boy in Mount Airy left.
Everybody was in the service.
Everybody's in the service. So I told them, give them ample time. I said, I'm quitting, I'm going in service. And that was the general. You had a few farmers
Yeah.
that used it to stay out, you know, and who turned out to be my brother-in-law. He stayed out. He was driving, but which turned out to be Greyhound. Used to have a bus company called the Blue Ridge Bus Company. And it ran from Baltimore to Pittsburgh, up the old road. And he worked there 4 or 5 years during the war.
I see.
He,
And then, but you went into the war. You went. Where did you go?
Well, they just took me through the draft, you know.
Yeah.
My number was up way back, but they was keeping me out down where I was working.
I see.
They would have kept me the whole war. I said, no, I'm ready to go. And the only thing I wanted to do, I wanted to get in the Navy. I didn't want to go. Well, the 500 people they took that day, 50 went in the Navy. And I guess I was blessed. I was sent to the South Pacific after school. They sent me to school.
Okay.
And sent to the South Pacific, and I was right behind the main action as they were going up to the Philippines.
Wow.
We started in New Guinea, and we had one base built right on the equator.
That must have been quite an experience going from growing up in Mount Airy to that.
It was. But I was in PT boats.
Okay.
And we didn't have the I don't know what you'd call it, the pomp that the regular Navy people had. You know, wearing new uniforms and all that. We was in the South Pacific wearing shorts and, and the least clothes that you could wear.
Yeah.
And
So it was a little different wartime experience that you had than many people had.
it was a little bit like McHale's Navy, if you remember seeing that on television.
Yeah, well, sounds like a good time.
We had to fend for ourselves. We was either stealing something to eat from the CBs or but those boats held, actually would sleep 17 people. They were only 80 feet long
Oh.
and made out of wood. And they did their share.
Yeah.
But I went to training for riding the boats and everything, and they put me on the base force there. They really didn't sleep on the boats, only in rare occasions.
Oh.
They'd be on a base where they'd get gas for them and, you know, and work on them. And it was quite a difference in riding a Navy ship, you know.
Yeah, yeah. And then you came back to Mount Airy after you
Came back,
served.
went to work for my uncle.
Oh, your uncle again.
Yeah.
He hired you back, huh?
Well, people didn't have jobs. I had a job. He told me he'd take me when I come home. You know?
Yeah. And then you met your wife. Did you meet her in Mount Airy?
Yeah. Actually, the first job besides there was on Saturday. I worked for the A&P store. That was one of the stores that burned down this last time.
Okay, so it was located on Main Street.
Right on Main Street.
Oh.
There was 5 grocery stores in Mount Airy then. It was an A&P American and 3 independents on Main Street.
Wow. That's surprising. You would think there would just be 1 or 2.
But there wasn't a store in Damascus. There wasn't one in Lisbon. There wasn't one in Newmarket. You know, we were it. Mount Airy was it.
So that's where everybody would come. Ah. And then you slowly worked your way up. You never worked anywhere else besides Jones Motors after
Well, I
that?
worked, I only did this A&P store while I was in high school.
Okay.
And I work on Saturday.
Okay.
There was 2 workers, I was the 3rd one. And the farmers all came to Mount Airy on Saturday, you know, and I weighed 110 pounds, and we had 100-pound people bought sugar with 100 pounds, and that kind of stuff, you know. You weighed the margarine that was in a tub.
Really?
Yeah, and then give them some yellow to mix in it. Remember? But it was, they treated me nice, and I got, they each got 2 weeks vacation this summer, so they gave me a month. Regular job.
Sounds like a good job, yeah.
And after I graduated, and of course went through the service, I went back to work for my uncle. And we all worked under the GI Bill of Rights, which he could teach me to be a mechanic and the government would pay half my salary. That was I've read the story on that. That was the biggest thing that made this country was the GI Bill of Rights from World War II.
Really?
They put you through college, but my family had no money, and nobody ever thought of college, you know.
Right.
I didn't like to go to school anyhow.
So you just learned to be a mechanic.
Learned to be a mechanic. And in 1955 or 6, my uncle wanted to retire. And 3 of us bought the place. And between the working for him and till I retired, I was there 43 years.
So you learned a lot about Mount. You must, being the owner of the car dealer, I guess you really, you know, you got
Right.
involved in Mount Airy politics also, didn't you?
Well,
The
see,
town council?
they got to, there was never any water in Ridgeville.
Some things never change.
Right. And you couldn't drill a well and get decent water. There was only about 2 waters in Ridgeville that were really fit to drink and so forth. Was one there at the beauty shop. And up the street we had across where the tire shop is now, we had a cider mill.
Okay.
And a lot of the boys worked in the cider mill during the summer season, apple season, when washing bottles. They bottled it in any bottles that you could get at the store that there wasn't a deposit on it or something. and that was quite a place for the kids to work.
Yeah.
And that burned down one Saturday night of the carnival.
Huh.
Everybody left the carnival and came to see what was happening in Ridgeville. There was more people in the town that night. People just had to stop and park. They couldn't go anywhere. And all the streets were blocked, and you didn't have all these fire companies come in. None of them had a fire company but Mount Airy. There wasn't a fire company in Damascus. There wasn't one in Newmarket. There wasn't one in Lisbon. Wasn't one in Winfield. Mount Airy was it.
Was a major town then back
there.
there.
Right. And all these towns were built on the railroad.
Right.
And
when you grew up, was the railroad? It was still a main part. The trains would still come in and stop here at the station there.
See, it ran on through to Watersville.
Okay.
Down where I live now, but they came over the hill in those days.
Okay. Where the tunnel now that the tunnel is in. I see.
But I don't remember them building the tunnel, but my mother told me that they imported our Italian laborers. And they sent up down in where the little shopping center is at the bottom of the hill. In that meadow, they set up tents and lived in them.
And had them build the railroad. Wow, I mean the tunnel.
When they built the tunnel.
And well, how about since we're sitting here in the library, how do you remember when the library first came? When a library came to Mount Airy?
Yeah.
What was the story behind that?
Well, they call it the old Flatiron Building. It's in the corner.
Okay, where the police are now, though.
Yeah, well, the town was in the first floor. That's all the room they had was the town. And the library was upstairs.
Okay. And how did they decide to start a library? Did just a group of
I really don't.
It just appeared as far as you were concerned.
You're right, and then they moved it over where the town office was and where the new town office is now.
Right.
And that building, the town remodeled for itself when they built this library.
Right. Right. So it's been just 3 places that, that it's been. And do you have any particular anecdotes or memories from your times, anything that you'd like to share as far as memorable stories of anything that happened in the past that
Well, everything, the fire company was started here in 1926.
Okay.
And things kind of centered around the fire company.
Okay, and was that on Main Street then?
Right, that's down where, what's that place that sells ribs and all?
Oh yeah, the
that was
Carter Q.
building.
And okay.
The upstairs was an open hall like this, where they could have dinners and they had their meetings, and downstairs was full of trucks.
I see.
I think they put 3 additions on it. They got ambulances and trucks, and And I was like all kids, I wanted to ride the fire trucks, you know, and so forth. And it got big enough. And you didn't have to go to school to do it then.
Oh.
Well, when the war started, and I was home at night, there were 3 or 4 of us slept in there every night. The idea was maybe the fire trucks will get sabotaged.
Oh. Huh.
And we were locked in there and sleeping at night. I did that a couple of years ago.
That must have been fun for a young boy, exciting.
Right.
Yeah.
And,
And then, so you've lived here, you've seen all the changes. And I guess for the most part, does it seem like the changes have been good? You know, you always hear the back and forth of population.
Well, you know, on the town council, I was one of the that couldn't have water was a problem. And Ridgeville and Mount Airy had good water supply. And I was one of the instigators of getting it annexed into Ridgeville, annexed into Mount Airy.
Oh.
And all the biggies in Mount Airy fought against it.
They were just even back then anti-growth?
Yeah.
Oh.
And they fought against it, and the law said, I started going to the town meetings because to see what was going on, you know. And the law said that a certain 20% of the voters had to sign a petition for us to get annexed.
Okay.
And they got the 20% to keep it from being annexed.
Okay.
The ones in Ridgeville wanted it because nobody had water. You know, it was a big problem. And we let them get it all the way down to the meeting. I had a friend, and he's dead now, was on the town council, and he kind of kept me informed of what was going on. When we got a hold of the petition, you could tell by looking at it, half of them had their wife sign and all that to get their 20%, and we wouldn't accept the petition.
Oh.
And you could tell, what, 2 people write their name, looked alike, you know. And they had less than 100 then to keep us from getting into town.
Oh. So you were able to incorporate them.
Right.
Oh. Well, that made a big difference, I'm sure, in the whole town on how it developed.
Of course, the first thing. And then this friend I had on the thing, when election time come up, you didn't have to agree to go on and sing. The voting laws were very, not too formal, you know. And he put my name in to be councilman. And I said, I found it out. I said, I don't want to take it off. He says, I'm not going to take it off. You're on there.
Oh, just like that. There you were. And it was many years, wasn't it?
So I got elected, and I was on, I think, 19 years.
That's great.
I'd have probably been dumb enough to stay on if I hadn't moved out of town and built a house.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like it's an interesting job to be on the town
Well, it
council.
was.
You know, there's always something going
It
on.
was.
Yeah.
People thought more of the pets than they did the children. You know, my dog's in somebody's yard or something. Listen to complaints like that all the time. And
You really had a good feel for the town.
right. And
Oh, that's great.
The biggest thing that hired people in town was the canning factory. And that was up where the freezer plant was,
Oh,
where they tore it down.
yeah, so that was a...
Any of the young fellows could get a job
working there.
working there during the canning season.
Yeah, yeah.
It,
So that sounds like that was good for the town then.
right, there was a lot of money came into that.
Yeah.
And
So,
I'll never forget, we moved out of that house in Ridgeville, and we moved about halfway down the hill here in Mount Airy, where Hill Street goes in. You know,
okay,
from
yeah.
the upper side, we lived in that house. It was a rental house. We moved in there, and the old fellow that was a farmer lived down, came through Ridgeville down to the railroad tracks used to be there. They took that railroad track out where the train could turn around.
Oh, okay.
And he'd bring corn to the can factory on a horse and wagon. And if he seen me out in the yard, he knew my mother and father. He'd say, "You want to go to the can factory?" Oh boy, in a horse and wagon, you know.
Yeah. Why not?
Why not? We'd stay all day getting that unloaded.
Really?
And there, you know, how much corn was it? Very little.
Yeah.
But it would take all day. And there was a place out there you could buy a hot dog. He'd buy me a hot dog and a Coca-Cola. And that was, I'd spend the day while they unloaded this corn. You know.
Oh.
But the wagons would be backed up, coming up Prospect, all the way to the high school. And down there, they'd be backed up out that street, putting it to the house there.
It's just people unloading, the farmers coming in with the corn.
Going,
I bet it was an amazing place back then. It sounds like it was, you know, a nice close-knit community. And,
right. And of course, right on the railroad, they shipped it all by rail.
Yes, it was a thriving
Wasn't
area.
there trucks in to haul it.
Yeah. So I guess the changes have been, for the most part, positive, though. You know, I mean, it sounds like it was a fairly bustling community back then. So it's bustling now, but I guess relatively it's...
The people that across from school up there, on just the opposite side of the street, they built a sanatorium, they called it.
Okay.
People out of the city wanted to come where there was the fresh air and sick people. That it was almost like a hospital. That was, I've seen many pictures over there floating around town, but a couple of the buildings were left, and one of those houses up there, a local carpenter moved it. It was one of the school portables. They had portables in, not trailers. You know? And they had 3 or 4 of them along up there beside the school.
Huh. So some things don't change,
No,
you know?
right. And he moved one of them across the road and made a house out of it, one they didn't need it anymore.
Yeah.
Huh.
Is it still there now?
Yeah,
Is it really?
yeah.
It's one of the houses across from the elementary school.
Yeah.
I'll have to take a look and see.
It was just a, I think they moved 2 of them, if I'm not mistaken. One was down on the Buffalo Road,
Yeah.
you know, on that road down there, because they pulled it across the field.
Isn't
But,
that something? I'll have to go take a look. So,
the dumbest thing they ever did was take the high school out of Mount Airy.
yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
That
here's the
were you
school.
involved in that decision?
I helped fight it. But
When they, because back, So that was when they pretty much separated the schools, the Carroll County, Frederick County, because before they all went to the same schools.
If you went to Lisbon, if you lived in Lisbon, they went halfway to Lisbon. They went halfway down the bottom of the hill there and going to Damascus, so where it kind of changes. That's the county line.
Right.
The school bus would turn around there. And the Newmarket was the same way. But that got too simple.
Yeah.
They decided that they came along one time, and all the counties, it must have been a state thing, decided that they were going to build the schools out in the middle of nowhere and haul people to them. The people were in the towns.
Right, right.
They were out there in the middle of nowhere. They built South Carroll and Linganore.
And so you were at the time fighting to keep Bout Airy High School
right.
where it was.
Now they got a Frederick County bus goes down Main Street, Carroll County bus goes down Main Street.
Right, right.
Yeah. Stupid.
Right, yeah. Well, the library here is probably a reflection of what the town used to be, because we have a nice mix of people and everybody just uses the library. I think your vision of the high school being the same way, it probably would have worked if you could have gotten it through.
Well, when they remodeled the elementary school, the guy that was mayor then, and myself, and there was a doctor down, a dentist down to Dr. Peavy that had lived down in Watersville. We went down and met the governor.
Yeah.
Mandel. And he wasn't the best known governor that we had, but but he never hurt anybody but himself. He didn't hurt voters or the people. He got in some crooked land dealing or something, and he really didn't hurt anybody but himself. But governor says, I can do any, when they was going to rebuild the elementary school. He said, I can get you money to rebuild that school tomorrow. Yeah. But he said, I can't get you money to build a new one. That was, so the thing kind of drifted along for a while. And we knew the senator, he lived over around Liberty Town. We knew the senator that was in charge of money for the state.
Yeah.
And one of the other councilmen and myself, we went over to see him one night. We sit there at his kitchen table. He said, boys, I can't get you money to build a new school there. But he says, you want money to fix it up? And he got it approved in 2 weeks.
Wow.
And that's when they built the addition on the elementary school.
And then the high schools just...
Politics.
Yeah.
Oh, it's all politics, you know.
Things never change. So, well, I think it's about, I think we're going to wrap it up now. But it was nice talking to you. We enjoyed hearing your memories.
It was interesting living on old Route 40.
Yeah, I'm sure.
That was the first road going west out of the East Coast.
So it was a pretty busy road then, huh?
Right.
Yeah.
And like the railroad, that was the first railroad going west from Baltimore.
So
it only ran to Baltimore to Ellicott City to start with. But then...
yeah, then 70 came in, and that was a...
There was always people walking the road.
Really?
Always people walking the road.
Wow.
Of course, they call them bums, you know, and they...
Yeah.
my grandmother would make a sandwich for anybody that stopped,
Ah, I don't know.
living on the road.
Yeah, so
Never locked the front door. Never, I don't think it ever worked when they wanted to lock it.
Ah. Yeah, those are the times you really miss.
You're right.
Yeah.
And one thing that the kids always look forward to, once a year now, here would come a guy with his organ grinder and the monkey.
Oh, really? Oh, so you
Walking the
actually
street,
saw-
and where there's a couple houses, he'd stop and wind his organ grinder, and the monkey hold the cup out.
Down Route 40.
Yeah, on
That was great.
well, the kids didn't see anything like that, you know.
Yeah.
And it's like the stores. You had 5 stores. And there was a man that lived over in the country, his boys still live around here. Would go to the city and get produce. In the summertime, he'd get crab meat.
Yeah.
And go to house selling it. Because stores
That'd be
didn't carry
nice.
produce.
Yeah, wow.
Potatoes, they carry potatoes. You know, and a few things like
so
that.
go
That's
around. So you knew it was fresh.
right. I think he would come every 2 weeks. Of course, he knew everybody and who
And knew
would,
what you liked.
who would buy what. And,
That's the way to be. Well, I think we have to, kind of running out of tape, so I think we're going to...
Does that help you?
Yeah, very good. Well, thank you, Mr. Molesworth. It was wonderful talking to you.